Alright, everybody, so I've just recently finished reading this book, The Power of Regret: How Looking Backwards Moves Us Forwards. And this is, I think, the fourth book I've read by Daniel H. Pink, who's also the best selling author of Drive, which I've reviewed, and also wrote To Sell Is Human, which I reviewed. Both really good books. This guy's got a channel actually on YouTube. If you just search Daniel H. Pink, it's worth looking up. He's all about how to live better, how to learn better, how to self-actualize better, I guess. The Power of Regret is all about regret, believe it or not. And the first thing it tackles is this notion that's very popular in the West about living life with no regrets. So it tells the story of how many people have got that tattoo. It's one of the most popular tattoos in terms of actual text. I thought it was Seize the Day, Carpe Diem, but it's actually No Regrets is one of the most popular ones. One of the people who says he lives by that philosophy is actually Slash, the guitarist from Guns N' Roses. That surprised me because I guess it didn't surprise me really. I was a little bit disappointed when I later learned that, no regrets is a pretty stupid philosophy. Regrets can be very, very useful. And what Daniel H. Pink did is he conducted the largest survey ever of regrets. He was able to use the internet to do that. When these studies started being done, before the internet, most of the students were at universities, at college, and unsurprisingly, most of these studies found that the largest regret is not studying hard enough or not getting better educated. That's because it's a self-selecting sample. The people who are being surveyed on a university campus are going to have education at the front of their minds. So they are already a bunch of people who would regret not studying more, or maybe do regret not studying harder earlier on. What the survey conducted by Daniel H. Pink revealed is, and he got thousands of responses, over 4,000 responses, so a lot of data there. There are four types of regret. Most regrets fall into these four types, these four categories. And what they are, his classification, is you have foundation regrets, you have morality regrets, you have boldness regrets, and you have connection regrets. So I'll try and remember the order I did those in. I'll probably get it wrong straight off the bat, but here we go. Foundation regrets are regrets of, I wish I'd tried harder, I wish I'd saved more, I wish I'd studied harder. These are regrets that people regret not doing them because it makes life less good later on. Okay, and as you get older, it's harder and harder to recover from foundation regrets. So if you're in your 50s and you realize, hang on, I've never saved a single penny, I don't have anything to show, you're probably going to feel a foundation regret about that. And they're quite common. Morality regrets are the regret of doing something wrong. So amongst the two most common amongst the American respondents was bullying. They bullied somebody. That was quite common for most of the Western respondents. Maybe it's just a thing in schools, right? Because it wasn't just America. It was, he had responses from all over the world. And then the other morality regrets are, you've got people reporting their regrets who are in their 70s and still feel really guilty about stealing a chocolate bar when they were 10 or something. So these regrets stick around. Then the other morality regrets, the biggest one was cheating on somebody, cheating on a partner. Very, very common one. And, it's not just the Americans who tended to suffer from that one. The morality regrets did have some kind of cultural variation, though. So there were people from less individualistic cultures, say Russia or other Asian countries, who regretted not respecting elders and things like that. Whereas with the more individualistic cultures, the Western ones, it was mainly just, I regret bullying someone, or I regret sleeping around. Simple as that. Connection regrets. Letting a relationship fade. Neglecting a relationship. Ignoring a friend. Losing touch with people. And some of these regrets will overlap. You can have you lost touch with you can lose touch with someone because of a boldness regret. What's a boldness regret? We'll go on to that. Or because of a morality regret. Maybe you did something that made you feel guilty, so you didn't want to confront that person about what you'd done that made you feel guilty. But still, the four categories are not entirely distinct, I guess. Boldness regrets. These are regrets of not being bold enough, not speaking up, not doing the right thing, not standing up for people, not taking a risk. I can certainly relate to not taking a risk, because my life is only ever good when I take big risks, and I only get payoffs when I take risks. But also sometimes you take a risk and it goes terribly wrong, right, and that can knock you down. So one of the biggest regrets was in the boldness category was not starting a business. That was one of the very common ones. Or people who'd started a business, it didn't work, and then they'd never started another one because they never got back on their feet. There was a bit of amelioration in that one, because I've started businesses that have failed, then tried again. So I thought to myself, at least I tried again, right? One of the most touching things about the book is he shares some of the regrets that were sent in by people. So the boldness regrets about, there's one guy who in his 20s met a girl on a train, and it was as if they'd known each other forever, and it was just perfect connection. They were crazy about each other, and then he was he's a Texan guy who was taking the train across Europe, and when she got off the train, she said, "Come with me," and he didn't, and he regretted that for the rest of his life. She wrote him a letter as well, but there was no way to contact her back, and he regretted that for the rest of his life, because he always wondered, what if? So you have what ifs, which are very, very, they're kind of indelible. You can't shake it, because what if leads to an endless number of possibilities. You also have what ifs and if onlys, but then you also have whoops, where you are bold, you try something, it goes wrong. Well, whoops, maybe you can learn from it, right? And then we've done connection, we've done boldness, we've done morality, we've done foundation, we've done them all. So the point of the book really is, like most of Daniel H. Pink's books, you can learn something from it. You can use regrets to point yourself in better directions, to make better decisions in the future, to live a more fulfilled life, to take more risks. And he goes into a lot more nuance than that, but that's really the thrust of the book, and I really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed all of his stuff. It's a 10 out of 10. He writes well, he teaches well on, subjects that are important, but he always seems to have some kind of surprise in there. It's sometimes counterintuitive. So when you read To Sell is Human, if you ever worked in sales, and there's a lot of things about sales and salespeople that really are quite slimy and not nice and pushy. His book, To Sell is Human, says, look, there's a much better way to sell, a much more effective way, which is not slimy, which is not pushy, which is about filling a person's need. It's a really good book. I mean, if you compare and contrast something like that to Tom Hopkins' How to Sell Anything, which is just pushy, slimy, greasy, nasty, that might have worked in the 70s when buyers didn't have knowledge, so it was easy to pull the wool over their eyes, or the kind of stuff that Jordan Belfort teaches, which is not so much about pulling the wool over people's eyes, but it's more a persuasion book. But the best one, I think, is Daniel H. Pink's To Sell is Human. And at the end of it, he says, you're a good salesman if you and each customer is better off as a result of doing business with you. I really like that. But that's just digressing from the actual book itself. The light is fading, but I'm going to try and read a bit of the book to you. I'm just sitting in a car right now. So, let me see if I do this. Can't even see what I'm doing here, so, there we go, a bit of light. Alright, so there's the cover of the book. I know it's backwards because I've not got the camera facing me. I'll just read you the back of it. So this is from Susan Cain. Fascinating. Whatever regrets you might have, reading this book won't be one of them. That's a bit cheesy. Everybody has regrets. They're a fundamental part of our lives. In The Power of Regret, Pink explains how we can enlist our regrets to make smarter decisions, perform better, and deepen our sense of meaning and purpose. Drawing on the largest sampling of attitudes about regret ever conducted from his own World Regret Survey, Pink identifies the 4 core regrets that most people have. With his signature blend of big ideas and practical takeaways, captivating stories, and crisp humour, he argues that by understanding what people regret the most, we can understand what they value the most. We can transform our regrets into positive force for working smarter and living better. And this is by Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit, which I think the author of Grit. I think I've read that as well. Incomparably candid, clear and concise. It's a great book. Shall I go through? No, I won't go through the chapters because that won't be as informative as it is in other books. Though we would like to live without regrets, and sometimes proudly insist that we have none, this is not really possible, if only because we are mortal. That's from James Baldwin, 1967. I quite like that. There you go. That's the book, The Power of Regret. It's by Daniel H. Pink. How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward. Oh, incredible, a beautiful resource according to Forbes. And I'll give that 10 out of 10. His other books are on the back here. So you've got When, Drive, and To Sell Is Human. I haven't read When. So when I read When, I'll review that as well. Okay, hope you enjoyed the review.